Hi, Jewish Mom. So I want to tell you about this past Thursday. I had I had kind of a challenging mothering afternoon, early evening. So first of all, I have my son, my 4-year-old Yaakov. So he had told me several times that he wants to make cookies for Shabbat. So I thought, okay, so we'll make cookies for Shabbat, even though I really tend not to enjoy cooking with my small children. I find it kind of stressful. I like kind of like, when I'm cooking, like to be able like in silent, kind of a silent, peaceful, empty kitchen, to be able to measure, the half teaspoon of salt and the 3 tablespoons of baking powder and just kind of like doing it without anyone, jumping on me or yelling at me or making kid balagan around me. But so for some reason I decided that I actually was going to do this with Yaakov. I was going to make cookies with him. And I thought, I think on a certain level, I thought, this is a good mother thing to do. Like he wants to make cookies for Shabbat. How hard could this be? We'll make cookies for Shabbat. So what happened was, whenever I bake, I only make one kind of recipe. I make, I make, in the spice and spirit that I got like 20 years ago when I first got married, which is now held together with, with tape and, with all sorts of like dough on all the pages or whatever, and splatters of various ingredients. So I turn to the baking section in spice and spirit and only make the things that have a little lightning bolt next to them, which means that these are things that are very easy and quick. So I just, when I was looking for a recipe to make with Yaakov, then I turned to one of those lightning bolt recipes. Um, and um, and so Yaakov came home, and he was very, very excited that we were going to be making these cookies. The thing is, the problem was that he had a vision that the kind of cookies that he wanted to make were cookies that we could cut into shapes with our cookie cutters. Okay, and so these are actually they're kind of like a very sticky, liquidy kind of batter, which you can't make into shapes. Basically, you put them on. They're supposed to take a teaspoon and then go like this to put it onto the pan. And so he was mightily disappointed. Um, and um, and then, of course, while I was trying to, so he was trying to do, it was quite complicated for him to get it off the spoon onto the thing, onto the pan. At the same time, his sister Sophia, 6-year-old Sophia, was crying because in fact she wanted to be making the cookies and not him, and she wanted to be, sifting the flour and measuring out the salt, etc., and not him. So I let her do a few things, and at the same time, then my almost 2-year-old Jonathan is going around the kitchen and kind of like opening up drawers and taking out knives and scissors and climbing up and opening the freezer and taking out ice cream and and doing everything he can to sabotage and to complicate all my wonderful effort to be a wonderful mother, and make these cookies with Yaakov. So I ended up like, just instead of having this wonderful kind of mothering moment of making the cookies for Shabbat with Yaakov, it ended up being really with a lot of yelling and getting angry, and it was really like quite a miserable cookie making. So it was all topped off when so what Yaakov decided to do was he decided to put so I gave him his own pan, and he flattened out the batter over all the whole pan, and then he just took the cookie shapes and put them all over, like kind of like randomly kind of making the cookie shapes on the batter, and then covering it with sugar. And then he baked it. Then he was very, very upset because he couldn't see the cookie shapes. And he thought because of the sugar he couldn't see the cookie shapes. Then he was very, very upset, crying and crying because he wanted to take off the sugar. By that point, I really was just so burnt out from the whole cookie making. I couldn't really deal with it anymore. And at that point, he took the pan of cookies, of his cookies, and he took them into the bathroom and filled the pan with water in order to quote unquote wash the sugar off the cookies. And you can imagine the ensuing disappointment and tantrums and crying, which resulted when my son realized that now like his cookies were completely waterlogged. Okay, so the reason I'm telling you this story is because I think that we all have this tendency, or most of us have this tendency, I certainly do, that we want to be a good mother, and what it entails to be a good mother, what kind of activities a mother does with your child to be a good mother. You know, taking your child to the zoo, taking your child to the playground, reading with them, making cookies with them, making challahs with them, like all these things that, you know, folding laundry with them, possibly for some mothers. You know, it's like that these are things that good mothers do, you know. And I'm taking an interesting parenting class, which I mentioned in one of my articles, about the Sheffer method, the Sheffer approach, and I've been finding it very eye-opening. Something so far, one of the most one of the things that which has touched me the most deeply, and which has kind of helped me to like kind of rethink one of my approaches to motherhood, is that our teacher, Hagit Bar Asher, has been talking about the relationship of a child with his or her mother, and how deeply a child needs his mother, and that a mother doesn't really have to do so much. I mean, aside from like, you know, basic taking care of the child and basic in ways that a mother basically has to take care of a child, all the things that we do in order to be a good mother, you know, sitting down with the child, reading the child a book and making cookies and doing, you know, doing all the various extra, taking them to the zoo and all the various things we think we have to do to be a good mother. What our child needs from us more, it's just like on an essential level, a child needs a mother. There's something just essential, existential for them about having a mother, and how central we are to them, and how important we are to just to their basic well-being. Just having a mother, no matter what we do or we don't do, that relationship is so essential, and so central to them. Whatever we do or don't do, you know, whether I make cookies with him or take him to the zoo or sit down and read him a story, or, you know, take him boot shopping to buy him boots instead of just buying them when he's not there, like doing all these things that a mother would, a good quote unquote mother does. So the Sheffer method kind of questions that approach, and talks more about just this essential connection, the essential relationship with which a child needs and yearns for. You know, I think like, you know, just thinking about me and my mother. You know, I speak with my mother once a week, but you know, beyond that, you know, she is so central. My mother is so central to my sense of just well-being, of stability, of you know, of safety. It's just that I have a mother somewhere in the world. I have a mother, you know, beyond what she does or doesn't do with me. And now, you know, I don't see my mother so much. We're not doing so much together, you know, but it's just this essential connection. You know, I think that I have a tendency, like I have various family members who are kind of much better at doing much more proactive about doing fun things with my children, taking my child to this activity or this amusement park or this whitewater rafting even, or this you know, various exciting activities, or taking them shopping to buy them new clothing, and all sorts of like kind of, or meeting them for dinner, or various things that that family members of mine do. And I end up feeling like, well, what do I do? Like, what do I do? Like, what, like, I'm like kind of thinking like, well, I'm not as good of a parent or parenting figure or relative as these other family members who are more proactive and kind of fun with my children. I'm kind of more, you know, so much of my energy, I'm sure you can relate, is taken up just with keeping the family going. You know, just with, you know, like making sure that there's food, making sure that there's clothing, making sure that this one gets to school on time, that this one gets taken home from school on time, making sure that this one gets taken to the dentist, etc. So again, like the Sheffer method, just a reminder, you know, whatever you're doing or not doing, it's just being there. You are the mother. whatever you're doing, whatever you're doing or not doing, you are there. You are the mother. And in conclusion, in that, just by being a mother and just by doing whatever you're doing, and not necessarily all the extras, all the things that a good mother does, um, aren't really so. I mean, it's nice, it's fine, it's not something to stop doing, but it's something that the connection is so much deeper and so much more essential to all the fun things, the good mother, quote unquote, things that we do with our children, that just this basic connection is just so essential. It's so essential and so basic to a child, so much more than the things that we quote unquote do with our children. So I'm going to bless all future moms with an amazing week. Call